Okay, let's talk about the force powers that even make Sith Lords nervous. You know how the Jedi are always going on about, there is no emotion, there is peace? Well, today we're diving into the abilities that make them throw that whole philosophy out the window and just go, nope, absolutely not. Nobody touched that with a 10-foot lightsaber. These are the Forbidden Force abilities, the powers so dangerous, so corrupting, or so fundamentally wrong that they're locked away in the deepest vaults of Jedi archives and whispered about in the darkest corners of Sith academies. Buckle up, because we're about to explore why some knowledge really should stay buried. So here's the thing about force powers. They're not all created equal. Sure, your basic telekinesis or mind trick might get you a free drink at the cantina, but the abilities we're talking about today, these are the nuclear weapons of the force world, and there's a reason both Jedi and Sith treat them like radioactive material. First off, let's establish why powers get the forbidden stamp. It usually comes down to three big reasons. Number one, they're morally corrupting. We're talking about abilities that twist your very soul until you're unrecognizable. It's like that friend who got really into CrossFit, except instead of just being annoying at parties, you're consuming entire planets. Number two, they're dangerous to the user, or, the entire galaxy. Some of these powers are like trying to juggle thermal detonators while riding a Rancor. Sure, it might work for a minute, but eventually something's going to explode. And number three, they violate the natural balance of life and death. The Force has rules, cosmic laws that keep everything functioning, and these abilities basically take those rules, crumple them up, and toss them into a Sarlacc pit. The key theme running through all forbidden powers is that they represent the ultimate temptation, unlimited power at an extreme cost. It's the classic Faustian bargain, Star Wars style. You want to live forever? Cool, but you'll need to hop from one body to another like some kind of cosmic parasite. Want to become impossibly powerful? Great, but you'll literally need to eat plants to survive. These aren't powers you master, they're powers that master you. The Jedi avoid them because they understand that true strength comes from harmony with the Force, not domination over it. Even most Sith, power-hungry as they are, recognize that some lines shouldn't be crossed. When both the good guys and the bad guys agree something's too dangerous to touch, you know it's serious business. Alright, let's start with the classic. Force Lightning. This is basically the signature move of every Sith Lord who wants to make an entrance. You've seen Palpatine cackling like a maniac while shooting blue-purple electricity from his fingertips, turning Jedi into crispy critters. But here's what makes Force Lightning so insidious. In canon, it's described as a spontaneous outpouring of hatred and rage. It's not just a technique you learn from a holocron, it's weaponized emotion, pure dark side energy channeled through your body as electricity. What's fascinating is that Force Lightning isn't technically impossible for Jedi to use. Rey accidentally summoned it in The Rise of Skywalker when she thought Chewbacca was in danger. Count Dooku used it even before his full fall to the dark side, as shown in the novel of Master and Apprentice. The reason Jedi consider it forbidden isn't because they can't do it, but because it requires you to tap into intense negative emotions. Every single bolt is powered by hatred, anger, or fear. The emotional release that comes with using it can even become addictive. There are moments in canon where Palpatine seems unable to stop once he starts, like when Mace Windu reflected it back at him. Now, in Legends, there was something called Electric Judgment, a light side variant that Jedi like Plo Koon could use, powered by a sense of justice rather than hatred. It produced green or yellow lightning instead of the traditional blue-purple. But in current canon, this hasn't been confirmed to exist. What we do know is that prolonged use of traditional Force lightning physically corrupts the user. Notice how Palpatine's appearance degraded? That's the dark side literally eating away at your flesh. The power also leaves traces. In Legends, places where massive Force lightning attacks occurred would become dark side nexuses for years. Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters use green lightning in the Clone Wars, but that's tied to their unique magics and the spirit ichor of Dathomir, not traditional Sith techniques. Different source, different rules. Now we're getting into the really nasty stuff. Force Drain is the ability to literally suck the life force out of other beings to replenish your own power. This isn't just killing, it's consuming someone's connection to the Force itself, erasing them from existence in the most complete way possible. In canon, we've seen it used by Mother Talzin in the Clone Wars and by Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker, where he drained the Force dyad bond between Rey and Ben Solo to restore himself. But if you want to see Force drain taken to its absolute extreme, you need to look at Legends, specifically Darth Nihilus, the Lord of Hunger. This guy became a wound in the Force after surviving the destruction of Malachor 5. He learned Force drain as a survival technique, but it consumed him completely. Nihilus literally ate the entire planet of Qatar, devouring every single Mira Luca living there. He couldn't even maintain a physical form anymore. He was just a mask and robes animated by pure hunger. His very presence would drain the life from anybody nearby. Other Sith Lords were terrified of him because he represented what happens when you lose control of this power entirely. The terrifying thing about Force drain is its progressive nature. Start small, draining a single opponent in battle, and you soon need more. The Sith Emperor Vitiate, also from Legends, performed a ritual that drained all life from the planet Nathema to achieve immortality. The planet didn't just die, it became a void in the Force where even Force sensitives felt nothing. No presence, no connection, just emptiness. What makes this ability particularly insidious is that victims don't just die, they're consumed utterly. Their Force essence is absorbed, used as fuel. It's vampirism taken to a cosmic scale, and once you start down that path, there's rarely any coming back. The hunger becomes all-consuming, defining your entire existence until you're less a person and more a black hole with consciousness. Death is supposed to be the greater equalizer in Star Wars, the one thing nobody escapes. But essence transfer spits in the face of that natural order. This dark side ritual allows you to transfer your consciousness into another body, achieving a twisted form of immortality through what's essentially spiritual parasitism. In canon, this is called transference, and it's how Palpatine survived being thrown down the Death Star shaft. He transferred his spirit to a clone body on Exegol. The mechanics of this are horrifying when you think about it. If you're trying to possess someone who's still alive, you're essentially attempting to evict their soul and move in yourself. In Legends, Darth Bane tried this with his apprentice Darth Xana during their final duel. Despite being one of the most powerful Sith ever, he failed. Xana's will was strong enough to resist. But even in victory, she was left with a permanent hand twitch, a remnant of Bane's consciousness that never fully disappeared. That's the best case scenario when defending against essence transfer. Palpatine thought he'd outsmarted the system by using clone bodies, no existing soul to fight, right? But the problem is that dark side spirits are inherently destructive. His clone bodies kept degenerating because his essence was too powerful, too corrupted for any physical form to contain long term. Each body would fall apart faster than the last, forcing him to constantly seek new vessels. His plan in The Rise of Skywalker was to possess Rey, his granddaughter, because he believed a blood connection would make the transfer more stable. The ancient Sith texts warn that failed essence transfers don't just kill you. Your consciousness gets drained into chaos, which is essentially the Force's version of eternal torment. You're not just risking death, you're risking something far worse. Even successful transfers often result in identity fragmentation, where you're never quite sure which thoughts are yours and which belongs to the body's previous owner. Sith alchemy and sorcery are where Star Wars stops being space fantasy and starts being cosmic horror. These ancient techniques allow darkside users to manipulate matter at its most fundamental level, create abominations, and perform rituals that blur the line between science and black magic. This isn't just using the Force, it's corrupting the very fabric of reality. In canon, the most visible practitioners are the Night Sisters of Dathomir. Mother Talzin and her coven use what they call magics, their own cultural variant of these dark arts. In the Clone Wars, we see them transform Savage Opress from a normal Zabrak into a hulking monster through ritual enhancement. They can manifest physical weapons from green mist, create illusions that fool all five senses, and even raise the dead as zombified servants. Talzin herself could dissolve into Spirit Ichor, possess others, and require draining life force just to maintain physical form. The Night Sisters' magics are tied to the Spirit Ichor, that green mist that permeates Dathomir, which seems to be a unique conduit for dark side energy. In Legends, Sith alchemy goes even darker. Ancient Sith Lords would create entire species of monsters, Sith spawn, rat ghouls, and other abominations that were living weapons. They'd forge talismans that could trap souls, weapons that fed on their wielder's life force, and artifacts that corrupted anyone who touched them. Darth Plagueis famously experimented with midi-chlorian manipulation, trying to create life itself, and according to some theories, the Force responded by creating Anakin Skywalker as a counterbalance. The process of Sith alchemy often requires components that would make your stomach turn. blood rituals, sacrificial offerings, and acts of cruelty that serve as catalysts for the dark transformations. Exar Kun used these techniques to bind his spirit to Yavin 4, haunting the moon for millennia. The real damage isn't just what you create, but what creating does to you. Each use chips away at your humanity, your sanity, until you become just another twisted product of your own dark experiments. Time manipulation in Star Wars is the ultimate forbidden fruit, the power to rewrite history itself. The Force exists partially outside normal space-time, which theoretically allows for some reality-breaking abilities. But messing with time isn't just dangerous, it threatens the fundamental structure of reality itself. In canon, the world between worlds shown in Rebels is the closest we've come to legitimate time manipulation. It's a mystical realm where all moments exist simultaneously, connected by pathways that look like a cosmic web. Ezra Bridger managed to save Ahsoka Tano by pulling her out of her duel with Vader, literally reaching through time to change the past. But here's why Emperor Palpatine was desperate to access it. Imagine being able to prevent your own defeats, to unmake your enemies before they're even born. The place was so dangerous that Ezra had to destroy the portal to prevent Palpatine from gaining access. In Legends, there was an ability called flow walking, practiced by the Ang Ti monks. Users could project their consciousness through time, observing past and future events. Jacen Solo learned this technique and used it to witness Order 66 firsthand. But even just observing carried risks. One wrong interaction could create ripples that change everything. The dark side also offers prophetic visions, but these are notorious traps. Anakin's visions of Padme's death, which were likely planted or manipulated by Palpatine, led him to cause the very thing he was trying to prevent. That's the cruel irony of dark prophecy. The more you struggle against fate, the tighter its grip becomes. Every attempt to control the future through the Force seems to backfire spectacularly, suggesting that some aspects of existence are meant to remain beyond even the Force's reach. Plot twist, the Jedi have their own forbidden techniques, and some are just as morally complex as anything the Sith developed. These aren't dark side powers, but they're considered so dangerous or ethically problematic that the Jedi Order banned them anyway. Turns out that even the light side can be weaponized in ways that cross fundamental ethical lines. Take Sever Force, for example, a technique that completely cuts someone off from the Force permanently. For a Force sensitive, this is worse than death. It's spiritual amputation, removing a fundamental part of their identity. In Legends, the Jedi use this on fallen Jedi like Ulic Qel-Droma, but the psychological trauma it caused was deemed to sever. Victims often went insane from the loss, describing it as having part of their soul torn away. The technique was eventually banned because even using it on the worst Sith Lords was considered too cruel. Then there's Wall of Light, multiple Jedi combining their power to create a barrier of pure light side energy. Sounds heroic, right? Except it could literally burn dark side users out of existence, and the toll on the Jedi using it was enormous. Some would be permanently weakened or even die from the strain. In Legends, it was used to trap powerful Sith spirits like Exar Kun, but at tremendous cost. There were also advanced mind tricks that went beyond influence into full memory rewriting, techniques that Jedi banned because they violated the fundamental principle of respecting free will. The lesson here is clear. Power is power regardless of its source, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The Jedi who understand this avoid these techniques not because they can't use them, but because they recognize that some victories aren't worth the moral cost. Here's the brutal truth about forbidden Force abilities. They're seductive precisely because they work. Every single one offers a solution to mortality, weakness, or limitation. But they all share a common thread. They transform the user into something that can barely be called alive anymore. It's the ultimate monkey's paw scenario where you get exactly what you asked for in the worst possible way. Look at the pattern. Darth Nihilus gained the power to consume entire worlds, but became a hollow shell, a wound in the Force that could never be filled. Palpatine achieved immortality through essence transfer, but spent it jumping between deteriorating bodies, never truly alive. Mother Talzin wielded incredible magics, but needed to constantly drain others just to maintain physical form. These aren't success stories. They're cautionary tales about the price of refusing to accept natural limitations. What makes these powers truly insidious is how they isolate their users from everything that makes life worth living. When you see everyone as potential fuel for Force drain, you can't form genuine connections. When you're constantly scheming to steal bodies, you can't appreciate the life you have. The dark side promises freedom through power, but delivers only different forms of slavery. Even light side forbidden techniques carry this weight. Sever someone's force connection to stop them, and you've committed an act that haunts you forever. The wisest force users, whether Jedi Masters or Sith Lords who survive long enough to gain perspective, understand that true power isn't what you can do, but what you choose not to do. Yoda could probably have learned many of these techniques, but he understood that walking that path would cost him everything that made him Yoda. That's the final lesson of forbidden force powers. They offer to make you more than human, or whatever species you are, but they actually make you less. They promise to free you from mortality's constraints, but they chain you to hungers and compulsions that are worse than death. In a galaxy where space wizards duel with laser swords, the most powerful ability might just be the wisdom to leave some powers untouched. So, there you have it. The Force ability is so dangerous that even people who shoot lightning from their fingers think twice about using them. These forbidden powers fascinate us because they represent the ultimate what-if scenarios in Star Wars. What if death wasn't final? What if you could reshape reality? What if you could consume the power of entire worlds? But as we've seen, every single one comes with a cost that makes their benefits seem like a devil's bargain. The beautiful thing about Star Wars has always been that beneath the lightsabers and space battles, it's a story about choices and consequences. These forbidden abilities aren't just cool powers for villains, they're philosophical questions made manifest. They ask us, what would you sacrifice for power? Where would you draw the line? And most importantly, what makes a victory not worth winning? What really strikes me is how these powers reveal the true horror lurking at the edges of the Star Wars universe. In a galaxy with planet-destroying weapons and mind-controlling parasites, these Force abilities still stand out as uniquely terrifying. They don't just kill you, they transform you into something that makes death look merciful. They're reminders that in a universe built on hope and redemption, there are still some paths from which there's no coming back. Want a deep diver into the weird, wonderful, and terrifying corners of the Star Wars universe? Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We've got plenty more lore to explore, from the mysteries of ancient Sith temples to the secret techniques of long-lost Jedi Masters. And hey, let me know in the comments, which forbidden Force ability do you find most terrifying? Or is there one you think might actually be worth the risk? Until next time, may the Force be with you, and may you be smart enough not to drain it from others.